How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Pierce the Canvas podcast. This is Pierce, here with another AEW Dynamite review for Beach Break 2022. Today is January 26, 2022, and holy smokes, in my opinion, I think we're coming off one of the better shows that we've seen this year, period. We had Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara in the ladder match for the Undisputed TNT Championship, Adam Cole versus Orange Cassidy in the Lights Out match, and a whole lot up and down the card. To me, there wasn't really a dull moment on the show. Like, maybe the women's match may have slowed it down a little bit. It didn't necessarily keep up with the excitement, like just the pure excitement from the rest of the show. But that's not to say that they did a bad job or anything. It just wasn't quite with the standard of the rest of the show. Like, literally two of my favorite matches I've seen all year so far took place tonight. And that's starting with the opener here, Sammy Guevara versus Cody Rhodes for the TNT Championship, Undisputed TNT Championship. Again, just keeping in mind that both Sammy Guevara and Cody Rhodes are holding the TNT Championships right now. Of course, Cody Rhodes took a week off, and so they put in an interim champion that happened to end up being Sammy Guevara. And so now they're redisputing, or whatever, they're re-emerging the two titles in this match here. And so match starts and there's friendly competition between both until maybe a few minutes into the match they attempt their finishes onto each other. And this is when Sammy goes for a ladder and guys fight over it. Also, I do want to mention that there is a freaking amazing debut tonight. I will say that much. So the fight goes into the crowd at one point. Cody clotheslines Sammy over the barricade. Sammy lands a flying cutter off the barricade back into the crowd onto Cody Rhodes. Crazy spot. There's a lot of crazy spots in this match, man. Sammy slides a tall ladder into the ring. Sammy gets Cody onto the apron and knocks him off with the ladder. Sets it up in the ring, starts climbing it. Cody fights him down at this point. Guys meet each other at the top of the ladder. Cody gets the advantage and lands a delayed vertical suplex off the top of this like super high ladder. He was probably like 3 rungs down, but a full vertical suplex, delayed vertical suplex from basically the top of this ladder. And it goes into the commercial break. And after commercial, I think the same ladder, the same really big ladder, is set up upside down and open. Cody just lifts Sammy and drops him right into it. And you know how there's the part that like extends out? That's like sharp. So yeah, I couldn't feel too good there. Cody gets Sammy's legs in the ladder rungs and locks a figure 4. Eventually just lets go. Obviously, you can't win with that. Cody's landing repeated chops until Sammy fires up, attempts a dive, but eats a ladder to the face. Cody's climbing the ladder up to the titles. Sammy set up one ladder in the corner, climbs it, and jumps off of that ladder while Cody's on the other ladder going for the title and lands a cutter. So he jumps off one ladder, takes Cody from another ladder, again, like basically at the top of it, and lands the craziest cutter I may have seen in my whole life. I don't know if I've seen a crazier or whatever, RKO, Diamond Cutter, Ace Crusher, you name it. Nothing ever came close to this. That was crazy. So Cody's under the ladder at this point, and Sammy just begins climbing, which is kind of stupid, right? Cody just does what anyone would do. He just takes a ladder, just tips it over. Sammy just falls off. Both the guys set up ladders and start climbing them, separate ladders. Cody lands a crossroads to Sammy off the middle of one of the taller ladders while he was standing on the other ladder. So Sammy was on one ladder, Cody stretched him over toward the other ladder, landed the Cody cutter. And I kind of just thought, okay, Cody's burying the guy. Yeah, I get it. Match is over now. But no, there's actually quite a lot more even after that. So Cody climbs a ladder and Sammy follows him up. And he kind of hangs on to Cody, and then they both end up hanging on to where the title is. So the title's on, think of a clothing hanger, except way bigger. It's basically that kind of thing that the titles are on. So they're both hanging on to it and hanging over it, and the ladder eventually just falls off. And they're both like just there, and I think Sammy just falls off and then Cody falls off. I don't remember if they pulled anything necessarily slick off. They kind of just fell off and looked a bit nasty. So both guys are ringside. Cody starts beating Sammy's leg with the ladder. Like, I think he had his leg in the ladder, starts crushing his leg in between. Fuego del Sol actually comes out at this point to defend Sammy. Cody lands a Tiger Driver 98 to Fuego. And this is like a kind of another part of the match for some reason. I just thought it was going to end like Cody winning again. But Sammy's actually able to land a GTH outside the ring to Cody Rhodes. And honestly, what came through my head when Cody started beating up Fuego, I was like, oh shit, it's like the official heel turn. Because that just felt so heelish. Like that, you know, I think it's like objective that that was a heel move, but I'm not convinced necessarily that he's turned, so to speak. So Sammy grabs yet another ladder from under the ring, sets up another ladder bridge outside the ring. Actually, I think this is the only ladder bridge that's taken place during the match. So he sets up a ladder bridge outside the ring, puts Cody on it. Sammy sets up an insane freaking ladder next to the ladder bridge that Cody's on. And we all know it's coming, right? Jeff Hardy spot. So Sammy climbs the top of the ladder, the very tippy top. He doesn't take the third rung. He's at the top. And he stands up there and just like praise to God or whatever, and then he lands the Jeff Hardy spot onto Cody, except he didn't go through the ladder, which may actually kind of suck. The thing that I did notice though for sure is that Sammy certainly landed on the landed the spot fairly safely. I don't think he hurt himself beyond, you know, the minimal amount of pain that it takes to do that kind of thing. So he didn't injure himself. I was like praying to God while watching this. It's like, please don't kill our Sammy. So Sammy climbs up a ladder in the ring. Cody manages to follow him up, and they're both brawling at the top of the ladder. Sammy clocks Cody with the titles, just takes the hanger, clocks him. Cody just falls onto the canvas, and Sammy's able to retrieve the 2 TNT titles and is the Undisputed TNT Champion now. That was a fantastic match that I could think of off the top of my head. That might be the best singles ladder match I've like ever seen. It was freaking awesome. It's on my list for match of the year. However, it was followed up by another candidate as well. I absolutely love that match. Fantastic. And it's great to see Sammy with the titles back. I was pretty shocked, as I'm sure a lot of people were, that Sammy actually won the match. And Cody didn't Tiger Driver him and just climb the ladder and take the title. I was quite pleased to see that they got the title back on Sammy. In my opinion, that's where it belongs right now. I don't think it was necessary to have taken it off of him in the first place. So the title's where it belongs, in my opinion, and absolutely fantastic showing by both guys to get us to this point. So Tony, for whatever reason, Tony Schiavone is with Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, and they're at a beach in Cleveland. But Cleveland is kind of like where I am here in Toronto. It's just like insanely cold and snowy. So they're like, Tony Schiavone's dying out there. So Hobbs is telling him to man up. Says that Dante's just been lucky lately, and he challenges Dante Martin to a match. Starks shouts out Jay Lethal. Says that Starks is still putting in the work and challenges Jay Lethal for... actually, he puts his title on the line against Jay Lethal. An unusual move from a heel, which is cool. And the segment just ends with Tony dying in the cold, talking about, my fingers are frozen. So I didn't know we were getting this, but we got a nice, quick Wardlow match here. Mr. Mayhem, Wardlow versus, I just wrote 2 blokes. And it's just Powerbomb Symphony, and then gets the win. Antics with Sean Spears and such, nothing of note. However, later on, there is an awesome MJF segment with CM Punk that we'll get to. Next up was Chris Jericho, Santana and Ortiz versus 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. And of course, this is, you know, the story between Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz being that Chris Jericho's kind of slowing down, the proud and powerful, stable within Inner Circle, and It's looking like Santana and Ortiz are really going to want to go on their own, especially from how this match went. Right at the start of the match, Santana tagged himself in on Jericho, and strike exchange between Garcia, Ortiz, big lariat by Ortiz, and a tag team flapjack and dropkick combination by Proud and Powerful. Ortiz gets a hot tag and is basically teasing that he's going to tag in Jericho, but goes for Santana, and this just pisses off Jericho, which in my mind I was like, bro, it's a tag match. Like, he tagged his partner. There's two hands there. In any given six-man tag, two guys are probably going to have their hands out. One of them gets the tag. Big, tough shit. Who cares? Like, it's just a dumb reason, a dumb motivation, in my opinion, for a guy to start blowing off on his tag team partners. Perhaps, who knows? Maybe Jericho's just going to go full heel, and I guess that's a way to do that. But I'm not sure that's the case. So Santana fires up on the heels and lands a double cutter on 2.0. Ortiz lands a powerbomb, discus lariat by Santana for a near fall. Jericho at this point is retreated to the ringside. He's not even on the apron at this point. He assists 2.0. He assists Santana and Ortiz as 2.0 are attempting their finishers. Jericho lands a Judas effect to Matt Lee from outside the ring. Santana lands a pile driver for the win. Jericho flips off Proud and Powerful after the match. So I guess that's pretty much it. I guess these guys aren't really going to be in association from now on. Who knows? We'll see where this goes from here. So next we hear from Jake Roberts, Lance Archer, and Dan Lambert. Quick stuff. Actually, we didn't even hear from Dan Lambert, surprisingly, but he was there. It's a pre-tape segment. Lance says that it's going to be a Texas death match against Adam Page. And at this point I realize, holy smokes, the Texas death match is literally Lance Archer's stipulation. This is pretty cool. So the match will be a Texas death match for the AEW title, so the title will be on the line. Adam accepts the challenge, and they do it in a way where during the interview he finds out it's a Texas death match, and he's like, what? And then he's like, no, I'm a tough champion. I could get whatever. He cuts his babyface champ promo and agrees to take the challenge. And next up is Tony Schiavone with Jurassic Express and Christian. He's also with Matt Hardy in Private Party. So Christian says that everyone wants to go after the champions like the Ass Boys and Billy Gunn have been with their attacks as of late. Matt Hardy says that nobody cares about that. It's time for Private Party to become tag team champions. Jungle Boy calls Isaiah Cassidy's watch fake, and he gets really mad. And next up, we hear from CM Punk, one of the advertised segments for this week. CM Punk makes his way to the ring in full gear, as if he's ready for a match here. And Punk says he tried walking in like a badass, but the crowd has him smiling from ear to ear. And he asks again if, he's asked this a few times, are you guys sick of me yet? And they say no. Punk says he's tired of talking and addresses the fact that he's in ring gear right now. And he asks the crowd to call out MJF. And Punk says he got himself a souvenir from last week, the classic MJF scarf, and just starts burying the scarf, but says that when he snatched it, he might be able to challenge MJF to a match, but he couldn't because he ran away. Says the scarves are as cheap as his personality, and says it's from Long Island, so he knows it's not strong material, which is a good line. Says he needs MJF in the ring, teases the match may happen tonight if MJF comes out. Says he's sure he won't accept the fight, he'll come out in a cheap suit with every excuse. Says he chased him everywhere, gone through Sean Spears, gone through FTR, gone through the crowd, over the barricade chasing this guy. And so he calls him out one more time here, and MJF comes out. His music comes on, out comes MJF. Suited up, of course, as CM Punk called. Crowd hates him. MJF hypes the crowd for the match today. Oh, you want the match to happen? The classic thing. Crowd really wants it, but MJF says no. Says he wouldn't waste one of the most historical matches in history of the sport in Cleveland, Ohio. Wouldn't waste it there, which I kind of agree with. This crowd was I'll tell you what, this show was freaking awesome. I loved it. And you have to be an amazing crowd for this show. This show is freaking amazing. But I feel like the crowd was like as excited as you should be for a show like this. They weren't like more excited than that. So yeah, I wouldn't do CM Punk versus MJF in Cleveland. No offense to them. I hope nobody from there is watching. And so yeah, MJF just continues bearing Cleveland, and he receives asshole chants. MJF says that next week we're in Chicago, and he says it'll be CM Punk versus, and we're all expecting Nick Gage. Who knows, right? No, it's he says MJF, so the match is official. Next week we will be getting MJF versus CM Punk for the first time. Some might think it's too soon. I'm fine with it. I'm also kind of looking forward to a potential Wardlow match with MJF. Wardlow finally breaking free of his alliance with MJF. So MJF says that we're not in Chicago right now. Chicago is a significant place to see CM Punk. Says it's a dream match we're impatient for. Starts just getting STFU chants. MJF says the match will be spectacular. The outcome will be upsetting. MJF starts bearing Chicago. Punk tells MJF to get in the ring now. MJF says refuses and says that after he wins next week, we'll see the real CM Punk. The Punk who loses his fake smile when he doesn't get what he wants. Blames his failures on others. If he doesn't get his just due, he might just sue, which is a cool line. MJF says on February 2nd, CM Punk will leave wrestling again. And MJF continues mocking Cleveland and talks about how LeBron left Cleveland, like CM Punk will leave us again. And he actually brought up something real interesting. So he went into saying that it's a slap in the face that CM Punk says he left in 2005. He says the real shame is CM Punk left in 2014. And did you know that the show he was supposed to show up at was a Cleveland show? And I thought that was super interesting and like a genius thing to say. I think it got a little bit of heat on CM Punk there. So that was kind of smart. MJF warns us that he'll end up leaving again and says that he doesn't care about how we feel that he's back, and says the chants won't stop him from leaving us again and crying about it on a podcast. And CM Punk just begins calling MJF a fan, says the best thing that he himself has ever done was leave and come back, and says that if he didn't come back, MJF wouldn't be having this greatness of his career happening. Punk challenges MJF again for tonight, says that he tells MJF that the heroes he looks up to are human beings, and he'll never lie to the people. Some love him, some hate him, but he'd rather be like that than be like MJF and just never show up. Punk says MJF pays to see him, pays to get his autograph, says he stands by the decisions he makes, says the fans love him because he gets back up and fights just like Cleveland does. This guy could cut a freaking sick babyface promo, man. So the crowd goes wild, and then he says like, oh, also Chicago, and then the crowd starts booing a little bit. MJF says, you could get right back up, let's put that to the test. And so out comes the whole Pinnacle. Shawn Spears jumps Punk from behind before being overwhelmed by the whole stable. Spears takes him out with a chair. Cash and Dax stretch out Punk, literally like stretch out his arms and legs, as Shawn wails him with a chair. Cash chokes Punk with the scarf. Punk tries going after MJF, but Dax takes him out. MJF orders Wardlow powerbombs him again. So Spears sets the chair down. Wardlow, you could tell there's a slight vibe of hesitation, but he lands the powerbomb onto the chair. And MJF proceeds to sit on CM Punk, the way CM Punk famously sits during his big promos, cross-legged on CM Punk's chest. Says it's apropos that the same place his journey started is where it ends. And hypes up the match for next week. I was kind of expecting that MJF was going to put some weird stipulation on there, like, it's going to be the whole Acclaimed versus you, haha, or whatever, who the hell knows. But no, it seems like it's just going to be a one-on-one match. Really excited. Really excited. So we hear from Acclaimed. Max Caster addresses John Moxley and says the last time they met, he jumped them before the bell. The next time Moxley attacked Max after the match. Says he'll send Bones to wrestle Moxley on Rampage this Friday. And Shivani's with Griff Garrison and Julia Hart, who she still has her eye patch on. And Mark Sterling just comes in and tells Julia that it was kind of weird. She's like, you're going to wrestle Jade on, I think, Rampage for the TBS title. And she tells Julia, you have to sign this contract because there's something wrong with your eye. I'm like, what? What does that mean? Like, why? What is... Okay, whatever. Next up was Red Velvet versus Legit Layla Hirsch. And this match, again, it kind of slowed down the energy of the show a little bit, but it was still objectively like a good match. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Like, I feel like on a more chill, kind of traditional wrestling show, this match would have fit in perfectly. But this match was just so revved up and like high energy that it didn't necessarily keep up with that energy, but it was still a fine showing. So Velvet rushes to the ring and the match begins immediately. She lands a leg lariat. Velvet lands a stunner, kind of like into the splits on the apron. Velvet locks in a submission. Hirsch reverses into a buckle bomb, as well as a dropkick. Velvet lands a stunner off the middle rope and fires up. Also, at this point, she's selling an arm injury. And she's actually able to land a spear, Red Velvet, to Layla Hirsch for a near fall. The spear looked great. Hirsch lands a powerbomb, knee strike for a near fall. Hirsch transitions to her legit lock armbar until rope break. Hirsch catches a kick by Velvet, transitions to a roll-up for the win. Like I said, pretty easy match. However, Layla Hirsch is now officially a heel. She heels out after the match on Velvet, locks in her legit lock until Chris Statlander makes the save. After that, we hear from Malachi Black. And he says he added insult to injury because the House of Black is built on conflict and violence. Puts over Brody King. Brody King comes out, emerges from the darkness. I don't know what it was, but for some reason Brody King looked a lot like Brody Lee to me in this segment. It was like weird. I don't know if anyone would agree with me on that, but I just like, for some reason this time it like felt very apparent to me. So Brody addresses Pac and says that Pac denounces the house and he'll be humbled. Says he'll look to the teachings the house has bestowed upon him. And Malachi says that they're inevitable. So we go into a commercial break and Sammy comes out with Fuego with his signs gimmick. And his signs, you know, like during the picture-in-picture break. Signs say, tonight I stand before you, beaten, battered, bruised, but not defeated. Tonight I am a champion, a true pillar of this company. I climbed the ladder in that ring the same way I climbed the ladder in this company. I didn't politic, brown nose. Instead, I did the work. Over 2 years, over 100 episodes, I've gone from a supporting role to becoming a key player. But it wasn't just me. Whether it's the people here in Cleveland, Ohio, or the people watching at home on TBS, you have been with me every step of the way. This TNT Championship is not just mine, it's ours. I wouldn't be here without you. Thank you. Signed, the Undisputed TNT Champ. So he cut his signs promo. Really nice stuff. So Tony Schiavone is in the ring with tables set up, a nice display of PWI plaques and magazine covers with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, on the covers. So Britt Baker comes out and says that it's been a while since she's had a chat with the fans, which is criminal. She mentioned it's been a very long time that she hasn't cut a promo. I haven't necessarily noticed, to be honest, that it's been that long, but now that I think about it, yeah, it's true. She does a lot of those backstage segments where she does some talking, but I don't think she's talked in front of the crowd in quite a while. So she says just because she's been a stranger to the mic doesn't mean she's not acclimated to it. Says that when MJF and CM Punk talk, they seem to drop her name all the time. Says she got Match of the Year, Most Improved, and Female Wrestler of the Year. That's serious. To get Most Improved and Best Wrestler of the Year in the same year says a lot. Not to mention match of the year, which was the Thunder Rosa match, which they didn't mention. Was odd. I was like, why didn't they tell us that? Like, the plaque said it, like Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker, but they didn't like highlight that like the announcers or anything. She also mentions that she was right to say that 2021 was going to be her year. She's proven it. Says she has 9 singles victories and says that the number 9 is special with Cleveland, and says some sports stuff. I think she mentioned, I don't know what, but like a football player or something with the last name Baker. I think that's... I didn't really listen. Like, when she started talking about sports, I tuned out because I'll never get it. I don't watch any of that stuff. Says she won these awards with a broken wrist, which is freaking impressive and absolutely true. That's a shoot. She says we're going to talk about the Baker that wins shit. Says anyone could have made this division theirs, but nobody took it. She took it herself. She created the top spot. She never stole anybody's spot. She's the one who made the women's division into what it is now. The fans are chanting some shit over her promo. I think something in reference to the sports stuff. But it's like really loud and distracting from the promo, frankly. Baker says she's become the face of AEW. She says she's been doing this since she arrived. The first female signed, the first female to main event. Says she stands voted by the fans, female wrestler of the year, and says more sports stuff. She says she's here for Cleveland. She won't settle until she's female of the decade, and says she's not going away, baby. Says she'll be the champion Cleveland deserves. Baker they could count on. Pretty good promo. So it's FTR versus Brock Anderson versus... FTR versus Brock Anderson and Lee Johnson. We'll see on Rampage. We got like a backstage segment from 2 weeks ago. The faces accepting the challenge. And during the match announcements, we hear from Vicky Guerrero. She's with Nyla Rose, and Nyla's pissed that she's not the TBS champion. Says it's because of Ruby Soho, and challenges Ruby Soho. And now it's time for the main event. Fantastic stuff, man. Orange Cassidy versus Adam Cole. Lights out, unsanctioned match. And so, you know the deal. AEW is not responsible, blah, 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 all that stuff. The lights go out, come back on twice before the entrances start. By the time both guys are in the ring, Cassidy removes his shades and crushes them in his hands, something we've never seen from Orange Cassidy, and they begin brawling. The fight goes outside. We get a shotgun dropkick into the barricade by Orange Cassidy. Cole's able to throw Cassidy into the barricade himself and lands a backdrop onto the barricade. And this was like pretty early in the match, but Adam Cole's going for a chair at one point, and he's struggling to pull the chair out of the ring. He pulls the chair out of the ring, and Danhausen is hanging on to it. Dude, Danhausen, man. He's officially, I'm pretty sure he's all elite. That was an amazing debut. He just like stares at Cole and just stares at him while walking away, like back to the stage area. That was hilarious. That was absolutely hilarious. Even Orange Cassidy looked perplexed. He was able to land a spinning DDT. Cole's able to thrust kick Orange Cassidy and lands a pump kick as well. Cole is going for Panama Sunrise outside the ring. Cassidy catches Cole and is able to tackle him into the table. Through the table. Cole picks up a ring bell as Cassidy goes for a strike. So Cassidy strikes the bell, injures his hand. Cole puts Cassidy's hand between the steps and the ring post and kicks it. And it might have been a shoot kick because Cassidy's hand looked pretty fucked up afterwards. Cole puts... during commercial break, Cole puts a trash can over Orange Cassidy's head and thrust kicks it. And I think Orange Cassidy was able to take a chain out and wraps it. Adam Cole took out the chain and wrapped it around Orange Cassidy and landed a backstabber. Cassidy sprays a fire extinguisher at Cole. This all happened during commercial, the last 3 spots I just mentioned. Cole lands a brainbuster on the knee after commercial. Cassie lands a Slumdog Millionaire as well as Michinoku Driver into the chairs. There's two chairs propped up. Cassidy's hand is bloodied up from earlier. We now find out here. They get a good shot of it. At this point, Cole calls out Cutler. Cole calls out Cutler. It's kind of hard to say, but he does. He calls out Cutler. Cutler comes out with his cold spray. So they do like a silly kind of spot. So Cutler comes out with the cold spray. Wheeler Yuta comes out and attacks Brandon Cutler. Bobby Fish attacks Wheeler Yuta. Chuck Taylor attacks Bobby Fish. And then the Young Bucks super kick Chuck Taylor. So they just had to do some stupid shit like that. And they did. Bucks and Cole position for a super kick. Roppongi Vice take out the Young Bucks. Cassie lands a beach break, orange punch as well, but he sells the hand injury. Cole lands a low blow. Cassie reveals that he has a spiked cuff and begins landing his weak kicks. Lands a Panama Sunrise. Orange Cassidy does for a near fall. So Cassidy wraps the chain around his hand again. Cole escapes to the back, and the match actually continues in the gorilla position. Tony Khan is there. Jerry Lynn is there. Cole pushes Jerry Lynn into Orange Cassidy and puts Cassidy through the production table, through Tony Khan's production table. And it kind of seemed like they just went to the back just to show Tony Khan a little bit of a match in person, because they literally went back, put Orange Cassidy through Tony Khan's table, and just came right back out. So they go back out into the arena. Adam Cole positions for the boom. Cassie lands a super kick, takes the chain again, and wraps it around his hand. Cole's able to take out Orange Cassidy with one of the stage lights, which looked pretty awful. So Cole is, like, I don't even know, like, it's kind of dumb what he's doing. But he's, like, climbing up the truss that leads to, like, where the Titantron is. And he's positioning for the Panama Sunrise. But I'm like, you know, what are you doing? It's not like he took Orange Cassidy and put him up there and is about to Canadian Destroyer him down. It's like Cole's gonna jump off the truss, land on his feet, and land a Canadian Destroyer. Like, I don't know. Anyway, he climbs up the truss by the Titantron, and he's positioning for the Panama Sunrise, which, again, just illogical. Anyway, so what happens is he climbs up the truss, and he's like, he starts pointing, you know, when he's about to do Panama Sunrise, but he sees that Orange Cassidy's gone, and Orange Cassidy's right behind him. He happened to follow Adam Cole up the truss. Cassie lands a low blow, and Cassie hugs Adam Cole, and he's hugging him for like a little while, and then they both fall off the stage together. And Cassidy happens to be on top of Cole, gets the 3 count, gets the win, and that was the end of the show right there. Fantastic match, absolutely fantastic. I love Danhausen's debut. That just like put it over the top for me. This so far is probably the best wrestling show I've seen this year. Yeah, I don't think there's much else. Like, I was hoping GCW could top it this past week, but certainly didn't. I'll just put it that way. But another fantastic one here by AEW. Next week, I'm sure, is also going to be fantastic. We, of course, have Rampage on Friday. I'll be back next week to cover AEW Dynamite. As always, have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching PDC for your AEW coverage. Take care, everyone.